Good morning. Nice to see you. I'm just taking in who's here. Hi, hi. I also have my guest teacher. He's back here. Those are his ankles. That's his leg. His window is open there, so he's checking out the birds outside. He has his own meditation. Yeah. Okay, so I am still recovering and I'm on schedule and feeling good about my progress. Yesterday was the first day that I was sitting cross-legged for meditation. So I'm going to try that again for all of you. And you can take your comfortable seat. I set up these two blankets because we're going to use two blankets in class this morning. So I have these two lengthwise blankets and I'm on this certain angle so that you'll be able to see most of the yoga mat here. I may turn the camera slightly once we get going. We'll see how that goes. But for the moment, I'd like you to take a comfortable seat and rest your hands in your lap. And you're welcome to close your eyes. And just try to sense yourself arriving in whatever amount of dedication or wakefulness or ambivalence or sleepiness, whatever is happening, just sense yourself arriving right now. Your dedication, however robust or flimsy, sometimes it's like that, it's going to be met by the dedication of others. You're contributing and also being reinforced by the others who are gathered here. So with that in your awareness, as you're arriving, lengthen up through your spine and sit in such a way as you're both receiving the dedication, the abhyasa of others, and you're also transmitting that abhyasa, that dedication of your own. And then you can infuse your posture with your breath. There's a further like enhancement of this dedication, both transmitting and also being receptive to. The practice and the teaching of abhyasa, which means a dedicated effort with a certain amount of consistency for a certain duration of time, with a certain depth of commitment. Every day that we make a commitment is called abhyasa, but in the teachings itself, it says we need to have our commitment with consistency, duration, and depth. And that is met by the practice called Vairagyam, where we are loosening our raga, our clinging, grasping, wanting. We are lessening the attachments that we have and the aversions that we struggle with. So even as you take your seat here, you're already saying you're making a commitment to this and you're letting go of that, whatever that is for you, making a commitment to this, letting go of that. With appreciation for your efforts to be here, please join your hands together at your heart. And we'll chant Asatoma Satgamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. And with your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands. Open your eyes. So this particular immersion, we're discussing the Brahma Viharas, which are the 4 divine qualities of the heart, the 4 abodes of the heart, like the 4 homes of the heart. They're considered native qualities. They're already in your heart, such as compassion, loving kindness, appreciative joy, and equanimity. To arrive in the heart, to be here in this 4th chakra, it's really helpful if we understand again the journey we've had for the lower chakras. And specifically last week, I was discussing with you the power emotions of the lower 3 chakras. At the 1st chakra, the power emotion is vulnerability. And I want to say a little bit about that for our practice this morning, because this vulnerability, it is our ability to recognize our fundamental helplessness, our fundamental smallness, our finite nature in this immense mystery. The reality of that, most people are not walking about in day-to-day life recognizing, because we've become very distracted by socialization and conditioning and so on and so forth. So this vulnerability at the 1st chakra, it requires a kind of inner strength and confidence and fortitude, of feeling that I can allow myself that vulnerability that is really deeply true. There's a second kind of vulnerability that happens when you're on the path of yoga, and there's more than 2, but the second one I'll mention for this morning is, as you're letting go of things, vairagyam, as you're loosening your attachment, your craving, your aversion, your clinging, you are less and less in rhythm with the society that you live in. You're even less and less in rhythm with, or in tandem with, some people who've been very close to you, or family members or friendships, and you're loosening your grip on some things for the experience of your yoga. In the meantime, you may not have realized that it'll put you out of step with others. And also those things that we have been socialized to believe, like with this, we will feel security. With that, we will feel some assurance. If only we had this, we would feel stable. As you're starting to recognize that that's actually like a house of cards, there's a vulnerability to seeing how we once oriented ourselves and turning to this other orientation. So I just want to celebrate that you're here and you're willing to have that kind of loosening of your grip and this consideration, because those things that we may have clung to and or people that we know have clung to, they are a bit like a house of cards or a sandcastle built at the shore where the tide is coming in and taking bits of that sand with it again and again. So the vulnerability that we're pointing to at the first chakra is what I'm calling a power emotion, because it gives us back this sense of connection to this larger mystery, this intelligence. We become very humble. We can feel our finite nature and it's precious to us. So to access that, it is helpful if we have a sense of the pelvic floor and the base of the body. So we're going to do a little bit of pranayama right now, and then we're going to use these two blankets in an intrinsic core strengthening activity. So resting your hands out over your knees, sit up straight and tall. Place your hands firmly over your knees. And as you inhale, begin at the pelvic floor and then raise up through the spine like cow pose. And as you exhale, begin at the pelvic floor. Tone the front hemisphere of the pelvic floor, draw into the deep low belly and round your spine like you were doing cat pose. Press your fingers firmly on your knees and inhale to roll up. And exhale to curl down. Of course, moving at the pace that is your breath cycle, not the pace of my breath cycle. And as you're rolling through, you may realize that there are places in your spine or in your body that you feel like, whoa, there's some tension you've been carrying there. And there may be places where you sense some dullness or you kind of lack access to that part of the body. Use the breath like you might use a gardening tool to carefully come into and balance the energy. Just go up one more time, breathing in. Down one more time, breathing out. And then roll yourself back up to your seat. And placing your attention in the lower belly, near to the bladder, we're going to do 5 strong exhales and then 1 long exhale. And then we'll inhale through the nose, we'll hold the breath for a moment, and we'll exhale out like a tiny cocktail straw, the breath leaving very slowly. So 5 strong exhales to begin. Inhale through the nose. And then suspend. And like a tiny cocktail straw, exhale through the lips. Now that the tone gradually deepens, and then totally relax the lower belly. During the 5 strong exhales and the 1 long exhale, I'm going to ask you to keep the pelvic floor toned so you're not causing it to kind of bounce during the exhales. During the inhale through the nose, you'll first sense the pelvic floor can expand a bit. During inhale suspension, we tone all 3 bandhas. During the long exhale with the cocktail straw, at the very end of the exhale, I'm going to ask you to really notice the tone just above the pubic bone and at the front hemisphere of the pelvic floor. Here we go again. Inhale through the nose. Bend. And slowly exhale. Notice the tone deep inside the belly, just above the pubic bone and at the front of the pelvic floor. And then relax that tone gently and let the belly radically relax. And now Kapalabhati, and we'll be using a long inhale at the end of Kapalabhati. That'll be left nostril. We'll suspend, we'll exhale right, we'll inhale, suspend on the right, and we'll exhale, and I'll say all of that again. So Kapalabhati. Exhale long and slow. I forgot to say that part earlier. Then close the right nostril, inhale left side only. Suspend. Close the left, exhale right. Inhale right side. Suspend. And exhale left side. Relax both hands in your lap. There's a connection from the 3rd chakra to the 6th, the 2nd to the 5th, the 1st to the 4th. And now taking the arms up with the in-breath and down with the out-breath. Rapidly. Now inhale, go up. Exhale, press the arms wide. Bring the arms down. Exhale completely. Rest your hands in your lap. And you might sense a connection from the third chakra to the sixth. But the third chakra is where we're really addressing this quality of willingness, the willingness to be here, not there, the willingness to make this commitment, set aside that distraction. At the sixth chakra, we have this capacity for clear vision, seeing the indwelling essence of everything and everyone, but also seeing the ways in which we initiate, perpetuate, and get mired in suffering. Now, last pranayama, please bring your right hand up. We're going to do the upside down triangle breath. So your inhale, suspension, and exhale are all equal. And we're using this practice in Nadi Shodhana. So let's begin with inhale, left nostril. Using your own breath pace for the equalness of inhale, suspension, and exhale. You can complete with your next exhale, left side. And you feel natural to rest your attention between the eyebrows at the sixth chakra. Imagine that the wisest and most loving form of you is seeing you from this sixth chakra, seeing you make these efforts this morning. Sees you exploring vulnerability, willingness, dedication, surrender. And we're going to transition from a seated practice. Please come onto your back on two lengthwise folded blankets. And the reason that they're folded lengthwise is I want them to be long enough that you have your hips and your entire spine on the blanket as well as your head. I also want you to have the narrowness of this fold on the blanket so that your shoulders will be going down towards the floor. So when you lie down, take the arms out into a T shape and check that you can squeeze the shoulders down towards the floor on either side of the blanket, just so that you'll know that that's there. Also check that you can take your arms overhead. Some of you will reach the floor, some of you will not reach the floor. It'll be different person to person. Take the arms out, palms face down, and draw the lumbar spine down towards the blanket. As you inhale, raise your left knee and your right arm. And as you exhale, return them both so that they touch the floor at the same moment. Inhale, raise your right knee and your left arm. And exhale, lower them down. So again, they touch at the same moment. And they each have a different distance to travel, but they're each aware of each other. So inhale, left knee, right arm. Exhale, return. And try keeping the lumbar spine gently pressing down against the blanket. There should be no sense that your chin is popping up towards the ceiling. Inhale, right knee, left arm. Exhale, return. Of course, at your own breath pace. We're going to add to the sequence in a moment. So check that things feel consistent and patient and smooth. So no sense of rushing or urgency, and to the extent possible, you don't have to narrate yourself to yourself. Inhale, raise your right knee and your left arm. And then exhale, lengthen each out. Left arm overhead, right leg out from your hip to your heel. And inhale, raise them back up. And exhale to your starting position. Inhale, left knee, right arm. Exhale, lengthen out. The left leg won't touch the floor, it's hovering. And inhale, raise up. And then exhale back to the starting position. And once more on each side. When you're raising up, keep the opposite arm relaxed and the opposite leg relaxed. As you exhale, lengthen out, and again, keep the other two limbs pretty relaxed. Inhale up. And exhale to your starting position, again, without any sense of rushing. And here's the last one. And then allow yourself to relax right there. Deeply relax the lower belly. So in a cross crawl action, you are discovering, I hope, not only the transverse abdominis, but also the oblique muscles are there. And the pelvic floor is having different experiences when you pick up one knee. That hemisphere of the pelvic floor changes very slightly. So we need the suppleness of the pelvic floor and also the strength. Please put a block between your two knees. Open the arms in a T shape and float your knees up to center. And then exhale and just tempt the knees to go right and left. You're on a very narrow blanket. Let's see what you can discover about this right and left. What is keeping you centered and stable? And how breathable is your experience? You might imagine that the knees could make a little, it's like the Rose Queen in the parade, how she waves her hand very slowly. You're just making this really consistent and slow wave of the knees and the block. And then slowly touch your toes back down to the floor and take the block and set it aside. And deeply relax the lower belly. Okay, let's inhale, raise both arms towards the ceiling. Take both arms overhead, stretch them long. Bring the lumbar spine down against the blanket as you're able to. And have a full breath cycle in. And a complete exhale out. And then raise your head, raise both arms, reach forward, look forward, place your hands and rise up to sitting. Bring your right knee into your chest and the left leg out to Marichyasana. It's called Marichyasana. I think it might be, it's A, B, C, or D. I can't recall at the moment. So wrap your left hand around your right knee and twist to your right. So right now in this Marichyasana, the torso is relatively vertical. So picture that you're twisting around a central axis. Yesterday I talked about the spiral staircase inside of a lighthouse. So you're twisting around in that same fashion. Each of the steps in the lighthouse is important. For each of the vertebrae and all the inner experiences of the body are important and relevant here. As you gaze over your right shoulder with your next inhale, raise your right arm, turn your palm face up. And then exhale, come around to face forward and bring your left knee up. Take the right leg out. My left knee doesn't come up as high as yours is able to, so go ahead and snug that up as you like. Cross your right hand over your left knee, left hand on the blanket behind you. Go up through the torso like a spiral. The light of the lighthouse, by the way, is at the sixth chakra. As you're breathing smoothly, the breath is a reminder that every vertebrae matters. And if you were traveling around the vertebrae like a spiral staircase, you would put every foot firmly on the steps to go up. You wouldn't be jumping 6 steps at a time, I hope. With your next inhale, raise your left arm, turn your palm face up, reach out. And then exhale, come around to face forward. Bend both knees about halfway up to the chest like this. Stretch the arms forward. Let's inhale, upper. And then exhale and roll down. You're going almost all the way down, and then you change your mind. Inhale, reach forward and upward. Exhale, curl down, starting at the tailbone. Roll yourself down, maybe about halfway, 2/3 of the way, 3/4. And then inhale, come forward and up. And exhale, curl down and in. And inhale, forward and up. Okay, then exhale, bring your right foot in very close. Place your left hand around your right knee and walk your right hand back on the blanket. So now you have this angle for the torso. Raise up through your chest and heart and twist to your right. So with this, reach back with the right arm. Just kind of lean back, open the chest and the heart, almost like the salambasana poses where the arms go wide. And we're lifting the chest off the floor. That was last week's practice. You'll see it again today. But try to get a sense of that openness of the chest and heart right here. And then let's inhale, come around to facing forward. Bring your left knee up. Yours can be snug. Take the right leg out. Cross your right hand over your left knee. Walk the left hand back and twist. And the twist. Use the lower 2/3 of the torso, as I was saying yesterday in class, to keep the back body broad and emphasize the back bend up in the heart, in the upper third of the breath. Exhale completely, sensing the twist from the inner belly upwards to the heart, and then inhale, reach yourself forward. Bend both knees and exhale, roll down. This time come all the way down. Take your arms overhead without a block between the knees, just for the sake of simplicity. Inhale, curl your knees up to your chest. And exhale, lightly touch your toes down. Take the arms out in a T shape. Just notice the feeling tone that comes from a practice where you're kind of, I say this, you're wrapping the cohesiveness of the inner body and the outer body together. So as you are now complete there, please, I think you can roll up and sit up like we were just doing. So roll all the way forward and up, come upright, put your 2 blankets aside, and let's prepare for your Surya Namaskar. And I'm saying the word your because it's not mine. It's not yet my practice. But put your blankets aside. Please rise up to standing. I will do my modified Surya Namaskar on the floor. You'll be doing yours from standing. Come to the front of your yoga mat, please. And join your palms together at your heart. Okay, and using the Ujjayi breath, let's inhale, sweep the hands down, wide and up. You can look up. And then exhale, come down to chair pose. Just your chair pose, not my chair pose, but yours. Then exhale, rise up from chair pose, upward hands pose. Look up, please. Inhale, open your arms like the letter Y. Rotate the triceps forward, hug the shoulder blades into the heart. And then exhale and curl yourself forward and down to Uttanasana. Touch the floor and come into your deep forward bend. And then inhale, bring your heart halfway forward, Ardha Uttanasana for you, cow pose for me. And exhale for a deep bow to the legs, cat pose for me, Uttanasana for you. Okay, inhale the heart forward. And then exhale, step backwards with your left foot to the base of your crescent lunge. You root down through your tailbone and use your inhale to rise up, come up to a Y shape and sustain the pose for several breath cycles. In this Y shape, turn the triceps forward so the shoulder blades hug the upper back. Remind yourself that every step on the spiral staircase matters and you don't want to be hyperextending your lower back. Breathe in. And then exhale and come over to airplane pose. I'm going to ask you to hover over your right thigh. Broaden the back of your waist like a parachute. Tone your outer right hip and outer right heel. Yeah, so Abhyasa means a dedicated commitment with consistency, duration, stamina. With your next exhale, lightly touch the floor and please step backwards to downward facing dog pose. And in your downward dog pose, turn again the triceps in towards the nose. The shoulder blades will widen on your back. Then inhale, glide forward to plank pose. Gaze down between your thumbs. Exhale to cow pose. And inhale, roll your hips forward to seal pose. And then exhale, roll up to table pose. Notice the lower belly. Inhale to plank. And exhale to downward facing dog pose. Exhale, step your left foot forward between your hands. Press into your left outer heel, tone your outer hip, and then as you inhale, rise up to the Y shape. And so we're emphasizing the chest and the heart there. Turn your triceps forward to the shoulder blades, hug the upper back without hyperextending or overusing the thoracolumbar juncture. Notice the breath here. This cohesion that you were making when you were laying on the blankets, do you have a sense of that support, embracing the torso right now? Then follow your exhale over to airplane pose. So you're going to hover over, not resting on your left thigh. The strength and stamina of this pose begins at the foundation, your feet, legs, pelvic floor, into the back waist, into the wingspan of your airplane. And then exhale, lightly touch the floor. Again, please step backwards to downward facing dog pose. And with a smooth breath cycle, inhale forward to plank. Gaze down between your thumbs and exhale to cow pose. So the heart starts to already come forward. Inhale to seal pose. Bring your hips forward, raise your chest and your heart up. Exhale to table pose, tone the lower belly. Inhale, plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. And now bring your awareness in this dog pose back to the pelvic floor, noticing how the inhale is received by the pelvic floor and what your exhale does in terms of toning the pelvic floor. And then from yesterday's class, I'm going to ask you to gaze back between the big toes so your eyes become another source of stability. And keeping the left leg very stable and both hands and arms stable. As you inhale, raise your right leg high up behind you, which I cannot do yet, but you can do. And when you next exhale, float your right foot forward between your hands. Again, establish your right heel print. And this time, inhale, rise up with the arms going up to vertical. Now, if it's possible for you, for your upper back to do this, turn your triceps towards the center line, bring your palms together and gaze up. Sometimes what happens is if the shoulder girdle or the upper back are stiff, you make this action by hyperextending the thoracolumbar juncture. So bring the arms a little bit forward if you need to, so that when you're raising your heart, you really feel that the base of the shoulder blades is supporting that lift.
And then your gaze goes up comfortably because the heart is already supporting the thoracic spine to do a back bend. And let's exhale. Sweep the arms wide, come again over to airplane pose. So you're hovering over your right thigh. Keep the back of the waist broad. Notice again, the foundation is really important. If it got forgotten in the aspiration, if the foundation gets forgotten, you may find yourself wobbling a bit right now or struggling with your stamina. Nice job. Let's exhale, touch the ground, and please step backwards again to downward facing dog pose. Put your gaze back between your big toes. Make both hands and arms stable. Shoulder blades are stable. Energize your right leg with the outer hip drawn back and raise your left leg high behind you as you inhale. Again, I cannot raise my left leg just yet, but you can. And still, even doing this pose without hyperextending that spot behind the thoracolumbar juncture, behind the diaphragm. And then exhale, swing your left foot forward between your hands. And we'll inhale, rise up this time with both arms up alongside the shoulders. And as you look up, turn the triceps in. Join your palms together. And decide how vertical your arms are going to be with respect for the entire spiral staircase of the lighthouse. If the tailbone stays down, the sacrum, the lumbar spine are broad. We're not exploiting the thoracolumbar juncture. Wrap the triceps around as you reach up with your heart. And then exhale, sweep your arms wide and come over to your airplane pose again. So you are hovering right there. And again, I'll say if you lost the foundation, you might feel like when you come down to hover, your airplane is unsteady. So it's a hint that we may lose the foundation. Sometimes in our aspiration, we might lose what is most essential at the foundation. Please lightly touch the floor. Inhale your back foot forward to meet your front foot. The heart goes forward. And then exhale for a deep bow towards your legs. Cat pose for me, Uttanasana for you. And then inhale and rise up. Sweep the arms wide. Come all the way up from your Surya Namaskar. And exhale your hands to your heart. And then please release your hands. And I'd like you to find a block to sit on and come down to Vajrasana. We're going to take the block this way. So it's like sitting on like a horse saddle, I guess. I don't ride horses, so somebody will have to tell me. But the block, the edges of the block, let me get this one. The edges of the block, your sitting bones are like right there on either side of the block. That can be very tender sometimes, especially if you just had major surgery. Okay, if you had major surgery within the last month, I didn't just have it yesterday, but Thursday will be 4 weeks, so it's still pretty recent. But as you're sitting on the block like this, reach back and take the fleshy parts and widen that so you can feel the two bones are sitting on either side of the edges of the block right there. And let the breath come down into the pelvic floor, especially since if the inhale, can you inhale to the back hemisphere of the pelvic floor? Can you exhale from the front hemisphere?
And notice when you're toning the front of the pelvic floor during the exhale, there ought to be another kind of tone that comes just above the pubic bone into the deep abdomen, into the lower belly. We want to take that tone with us into salambasana. To get a sense of this, we're going to use these two blankets. So if you take the two blankets lengthwise down your mat now, try not to get them lumpy like I just did. We're going to be lying on these blankets face down so that the pubic bone will be at the edge of the blanket. The abdomen will be here, like the navel will be right about there. So please lie down. You can put your blocks within reach so that you'll know where they are. Rest your forehead down on your blankets. And as you get comfortable with that little bit of pressure right there on the pubic bone, by inhaling to the back hemisphere of the pelvic floor while the legs are relaxed. You'll notice that there'll be like a slight back bend that happens when you inhale to the back of the pelvic floor, legs relax, and on this blanket, that tiny bit of like lumbar extension. And then when you exhale, tone the front hemisphere of the pelvic floor. Notice at the end of the exhale, that will generally also include the deep inner belly. So that internal layer, the most internal layer, is really essential first. We place the other muscles in relationship to that. So now I'd like you to energize your legs, press the tops of your feet down, press the knees and thighs down. Inhale to the back of the pelvic floor. And then exhale on the front of the pelvic floor and draw the inner belly in towards the sacrum. Now sweep the arms straight back and inhale, rise up to salambasana. Squeeze the shoulders back so your palms can face each other. Keep the legs grounded and the breath smooth. And then exhale, roll down, turn your head opposite of where it was first. And keeping the legs in your awareness now, again, tone the tops of your feet, all 10 toes. Press down with the tops of your knees, tone your thigh muscles. Don't yet squeeze the butt, just tone the thigh muscles and sense the inhale at the back hemisphere of the pelvic floor. And the exhale on the front side. And as you root the tailbone, it should feel like you're adding to the experience. You're not overriding any other part of the experience. It's time to sweep the arms wide as you come up to salambasana. It should not feel like the legs are acting like an old-fashioned egg beater. By that I mean what we used to call egg beater butt in my Iyengar yoga days. You're not just squeezing the outer hips in against the sacrum, but you added that tone where the tailbone reaches towards your heels, towards your toes. And every bit of effort from the toes to the fingertips should feel like it's a cohesive whole. The body's working in a balanced way. As you next exhale, come down and turn your head back to the first position you had, left or right, whatever that was for you. Now bring your elbows into the Sphinx pose and scooch back on your blanket so that your pubic bone just goes off the back edge of the blanket. And right there, the blanket might be uncomfortable. You are in the soft, vulnerable part of the deepest part of the belly, just above the pubic bone. You can roll the hips a little bit side to side. Get to know what's happening there. And then come to center. You might feel your heartbeat in the lower belly. In a sense, if you're able to breathe from the lower belly and feel the impression of the blanket against the abdomen, broadening the back of the sacrum. So add to this position now that you're going to tone the legs, take the tailbone down, press your palms lightly down and lift your chest and heart up to a variation of the Sphinx pose. I know you have your abdomen against the blankets and maybe you should have, I don't know, woken up earlier, had a bowel movement or, emptied the bladder. And if you haven't done those things and this is painful, of course, take care of yourself. And keeping the tailbone anchored so there's no sense of exploiting the body. Sweep your arms wide. Send your thumbs up to the sky like you're hitchhiking to God. And then exhale and curl yourself down last time. Turn your head to the second direction and rest downward facing on the blankets. Let's do this. You can bend the knee to the feet are like windshield wipers. And you can rock them side to side to get a little bit of a massage across the belly. You might see me crossing my ankles. That's because I don't have control over my left shin or foot yet, but you can keep your ankles free from each other. And you can follow me on this one. Please turn your head to your left, open your right arm out to the side, and tip your knees down to the right. Place your left hand on the floor and rise up to sitting and then into kneeling. Okay, I'd like you to kneel so that you are near to the two blankets. We're going to be turning about into Baddha Konasana in a moment. So sorry, it maybe seems awkward, like why did I go through the trouble of doing it that way? It was because of my hip replacement. Okay, so to get your hips on the floor here, lumbar spine, upper spine, and head, let's go ahead and spin about. And then placing the blanket right there at the top of the sacrum, the bottom of the lumbar spine. Let's take the two blocks, one for each knee. Reach around to find your blanket to curl under your neck. Open the arms in a beautiful T shape. And bring the breath down to touch the pubic bone, the inguinal groove, the hip bones, the sacrum. And begin to relax the breath more and more deeply until you're not making any effort with the breath at all. And rest your attention at the first chakra, this place where I was discussing earlier in class the vulnerability. Imagine that the wisest and most loving version of you is seeing you making these efforts right now. And it's giving you this permission, even this honor or recommendation that you can feel your inherent vulnerability. This most wise and loving view from within you can also see the value of that vulnerability, truth of it. And then imagine from your heart, from the fourth chakra, gazing down at the first chakra with an inner attitude of compassion. And the compassion of the heart is able to see faculty at the first chakra to say yes to this innate vulnerability, the tenderness of loosening our grip, the attractions, clinging, aversions. Release any unnecessary tension or apprehension at the base of the spine, at the pelvic floor. Continue to rest and release any unnecessary tension at the root. Knowing you have the compassion of the heart and the wisdom of your wisest and most loving chaperone at the sixth chakra. Remind yourself that your body is going through an integration process right now. And please rest a few degrees more deeply. And bring some awareness to the very base of the spine again, the pubic bone, and the region just across the lowest part of your lap. And as you put a little bit of tone there, slowly raise your knees up to center. And then you may release from your Shavasana by rolling to one side or the other. And please come up to join us for meditation. You ready for the meditation? Yes. You want to meditate on the silence, the absence of the garbage truck, the absence of the recycling truck. Your seat is available over there again. You can also stay here if you want. Okay, please take your comfortable seat. Rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. And let's put our attention down at the base, at the pelvic floor. You could picture it like a canoe shape, a small canoe in a massive ocean, lovingly looked after from the sixth chakra, and compassionately considered from the fourth chakra. Our ability to sense the smallness of our boat, the immensity of the ocean of life. Capacity for that is bolstered by being with each other, also sensing not only our own preciousness, but the preciousness of everyone who's here and everyone that we know, even those we don't know, all of the creatures. And as Albert Einstein said, and the whole of nature. Just raise your hands to your heart. Place your mind down at the root. Lum, 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 lum. Second. One, 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 one. Third. Ram, 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 ram. Fourth. Yum, 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 yum. And to the center of your palms, you can place this quality of compassion, the innate vulnerability that you are and that everything and everyone actually is. You raise this compassion up to the sixth chakra. You see each other clearly. Bring that back down to the fourth. And really make an offering of this compassion. It looks like the canoe I was talking about earlier. Make this offering. Can I uphold the value of compassion today for the vulnerability that is all of us, including myself and all these creatures? Am I able to receive compassion today? From others, from my wisest self, from myself. And bring that back to the heart. Thank you, everyone. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you, Nakula, for coming to class today. Sorry about the garbage and the recycling people. We don't like that so much. I will come up to see you more closely. in my glasses. Nearly fell backwards off of my blanket. It's not that far to go, but it still would be a surprise. It might cause concern for others. There we go. Okay, now I can come see you. Hi, everyone. Mr. Nakula, he does not like the sound of the garbage truck, of course. And he is quite accustomed to what it is, and he knows where to go and how to support himself and how to come back. How are you feeling?